everyone, what's up? Gary Simon here of slantaudio.com. So I'm going to show you today how to play that solo with a strong emphasis on understanding the music theory behind it as well, and understanding modes and just how to create solos essentially. And so just a note. If you want access to the tabs and backing track, I actually have two backing tracks for this. One is just a simple one where we're only going between the initial two notes, and there's an extended one that also has a chorus as well that you can use to create, and extend your knowledge of the fretboard and trying to create your own solo over it. All right, so make sure you subscribe. It's very early stages in this this YouTube channel, and yeah, very excited to keep on pushing forward. So let's get started. All right, so we're going to start off by talking about the chord progression in the backing track, because that's obviously, if you're going over a song or a composition that has a chord progression of some sort, whether the power chords or not, you have to ask yourself first what key is it in, and then also understand the structure of that chord progression. So here's what it sounds like. All right, so very simple. It's an A minor seventh. All right, so to achieve that, we have an A minor here, and so we're gonna not strum this bottom high E here, and then for our third finger on the G string, we're going to play an open G string. We're just gonna take it off. All right, and so I'm also just pulling off on the B string first fret. And then for our C, all right, so this is C major here. Again, we're not going to hit the high E, and this is referred to as a C sus2. All right, so we take off our middle finger, and we play an open D string. We also play an open G string as usual, and then we move up on the B string first fret to our third fret, and that's strummed like this. All right, so it's going from A to C. All right, and so this is where having a working knowledge of the modes and their relation to their intervals and half intervals will help you understand which modes or scales that you can use to solo over that particular chord progression. So for instance, we're starting on A, so we're in the key of A, but I'm going to play it right here so we can just see it a little bit better. So if we're going from A to C, it would look like this, or like that, same exact thing. All right, so we have just three semitones in there, or half steps, if you will. Half step is just one fret. All right, so when it comes to figuring out which modes you could use, then you would be able to use most of the minor modes. All right, so if we go through real quickly, just figuring out if an A and a C are present in the 7 modes, if we start with the major scale or the first mode, Aeolian, same thing. The first 3 notes are, we actually don't have a C in here, which is right here, so you can't use the major scale or the Aeolian mode. Next is Dorian. This is just a second mode, and that starts off with this. All right, so it does have that C in there that we can use. The next is Phrygian. All right, so that starts off with a half step, then a whole step, and it does, so we could use Phrygian. Next is Lydian, and that starts just the same way as the major scale or the Ionian. So we couldn't use that. Mixolydian, same thing. And then Aeolian, which is the 5th mode, is, we can use that, which is also the minor scale, or the natural minor. Outside of that, we also have Locrian, and that would, oh, by the way, I was wrong, that was the 6th mode. 7th mode is Locrian, which is this, which you could use as well. All right, so that's the one mode that I like when I was experimenting with it is just the natural minor scale, or Aeolian. All right, so Aeolian is structured like this in terms of whole steps and half steps. All right, so understand that this is the sixth position in terms of, you know, ascending completely up here, but when it comes to all the modes, it's just 7 notes, which is this. From there, it simply repeats up the neck. So that's going to be the mode that we use to try to create a solo over that particular backing track. All right, so now for the actual lead part. It starts off in A, and so that sounds like probably a pretty good area to start for the solo, for our first note. And so to contrast with the fact that, you know, this backing track, the chord progressions are played on some of the lower strings, starting up here on this A right here. So, all right, and when it comes to constructing a solo, and I'm not talking about improvisation at this point. You know, you're sitting down, you have time to think about it, especially when you're starting. This is why having an understanding of those 7 modes and those positions and the scale shapes is so important. It's going to make your life a lot easier, aside from just completely winging it. All right, so let me just give you a demonstration. I'm going to play the backing track, and I'm going to play the 7 positions, which comprise of the natural minor, or the Aeolian mode. All right, and so once again, Aeolian is the 6th position. And before I play it, I'll just demonstrate what I'm talking about. So Aeolian, when it comes to 3 notes per string diatonic scale, looks like this for the first 3 notes. All right, the next position up is Locrian. All right, so that's the 7th position, and that looks like this. And then it starts over all the way back to the first position, which is Ionian, or the major scale. All right, then the next position is Dorian, and then we have Phrygian, Lydian, and Mixolydian. All right, so just using that shape and understanding and going in, that's why practicing and going in and out of each shape, from the first 3 notes to the first 6 notes to the, sorry about that, I'm talking about, yeah, first 6 notes, and then also multiple strings, very important. It's going to help you, especially when it comes to improvising on the spot, but also writing as well. So I'm going to play the backing track with just that string and just those notes, and it's not going to sound like the greatest thing ever, of course, because it's actually going to sound kind of dumb, but it's not going to sound like there's not going to be out of place notes that don't make sense. All right, so as you can see, it worked, but it didn't sound like the greatest thing ever. All right, you can also do this with, obviously, multiple strings if you know those shapes and the 3 notes per string shapes according to the 7 modes. So that would look like. And on and on and on you go. When it came to, you know, thinking about how I would make this solo, I just thought about different phrasing techniques. You know, so you have slides, you have bends, you have different ways, you know, right hand picking techniques to make things sound different and interesting. So the only thing I knew, obviously starting off, is I wanted to start on that note right here. I'm going to play through just that first part, just to let you know. I'm not going to really denote which frets and which notes I'm playing. I'm going to put that up here in the bottom. And also the tabs are available on the site. All right, so here's the first part, and here's what I came up with. All right, so as you can see, I chose, because it's a more of a melodic piece, I did some tapping in there, which helps you avoid the strong action when it comes to picking. Not to say that you can't use that, obviously, but I wanted to start it off very soft like that, so you get that effect. I also did a slide where I'm not even picking it. I'm just really hitting that slide hard and trying to make sure I do it really fast so that I actually get the note to ring out like this. Oop. Yeah, and of course it's tough if you're going that fast to get right to that A note. And it gives a different sound as opposed to just picking. All right, so anyhow, after that, all right, so I'm doing tapping up here, then I pull off on the tap, and I slide as well. So it's... And I use the tremolo bar as well to pull up. I need to get less thick string gauges. I'm using 11s right now. It's a little bit hard. I could do it, but I really liked using the whammy bar. I don't use this enough anyhow. So, and then from there we have a second part. And by the way, all those notes that I was using fall perfectly in line with the natural minor or the Aeolian mode that I was picking. Obviously, I'm skipping, I'm not playing every note, obviously, and that makes it sound much more interesting. After that, I do this little part right here. All right, and so when it comes to that position, once you understand the full position of each of the modes, you'll understand once you start to play them, you'll say, oh, that's the end of maybe Mixolydian, and this happens to be the way I played this, the end of the Mixolydian 3 notes per string mode and scale shape. So we have all those notes that we could possibly use if we wanted to keep going up the scale, which I didn't want to do, so I ended it just, kind of prematurely. And then I go into the next part, which is sweep picking on an arpeggio, and we're extending it with tapping and then continuing on with a little bit more tapping as well. So going through that real slow. All right, and so when it comes to sweep picking in our doing arpeggios, you want to really try to get those notes isolated. So you roll your finger when you're going through it, and so you don't want bleeding, as it's called. Just like that. And so obviously, you practice it a bunch of times and you work your speed up. Eventually, you will get there. After that, we come back to a similar theme that it started with the solo. Obviously, this is a very short solo. It can be much longer. That's why I included the extended backing track with the chorus, where you can add whatever you want. But I come back to that initial theme where I'm doing slides and tapping right in this area, except I changed it up, and that part sounds like this. And here's slow. All right, so of course, the position here, so I'm not going to sit there telling you the frets or the notes or whatever. And it really is that simple. So the moral of the story here is understand the 7 different modes, understand which order they fall in, and understand their associated scale shapes, definitely for 3 notes per string, and also even pentatonics as well. So once you do that, you're going to be on your way definitely to creating solos that sound quite good. All right, so if you enjoyed this, make sure you subscribe. There's going to be a lot more coming. Check out the site, of course. All it requires is an email, and you have access to all the backing tracks, tabs, and such from any other video in the past or present or in the future that I released. All right, see you guys later.